Welcome to The Business Fighter with Henry Penix. Henry has been the CEO, founder, and consultant to hundreds of companies worldwide. He retired a multimillionaire, financially independent at the age of 35. Henry grew up a preacher's son and was thrown in jail 3 times for various altercations. He knows what it means to come from nothing and have to fight his way to the top. Henry is the business fighter who will teach you strategic skills for winning in business and in life. Don't just spectate, participate. It's time to get in the ring.
Hi, this is Henry Penix, the business fighter, coming at you with part 2 of the Kristin Smedley podcast. I promised you guys that we were going to do part 2, and we actually finished recording part 1. And I said, Kristin, I've never asked anyone to do this, but are you up for going another round? She goes, let me check on the kids, the dogs. I'm coming right back down. Let's do it. So Kristin, we're going to do it. Part 2 right now.
So in. I'm so in.
Cool. You've got an amazing story. Guys, listen to part 1 if you want to hear the details of the story. But you were telling me how you've had 2 children born that were blind. You've got one-sighted daughter. And the first child you have, you're a big planner. You're a Virgo. You want everything to go on schedule. It's got to be exactly as planned. That turned your life upside down. And I want to jump right into your breakthrough. When you found out your first child was blind, what did you do to kind of break through from that? And what help did you get? And this podcast is going to be more along those lines.
Yeah. So I guess to be perfectly honest, I broke down for quite a while. I mean, I was very broken down for quite a while, and I did a very good job for 3.5 years of smiling by day and then sobbing all night long, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And it was when I was pregnant with my second child, because honestly, there's a 25% chance of having a second affected baby with this rare blindness. And I came to a point I was from a very big family, and I've always been around a lot of people. So my thought was, I figured, like I mentioned in the first part of this, I'm a delirious optimist. I'm like, come on, I'm all at 75% is a big number. We got this, right? And I'm like, and I'd have these conversation. Well, with the moment that I really, came out of when I had the breakthrough is when the morning I woke up and I was really struggling, and I was sitting there thinking, oh boy, all the reality was settling in. Like this delirious optimist was like, wait a minute, 25 is big. I know 75 is big. So then I often say, like people say, go to God in prayer. I go to him in full on tantrums, right? I'm like, look, here's the list I made, and you aren't coming through with any of it. Like, what do we got going on here? Like, all right, I will get my head around that one affected child. Fine. I understand that that's my mission. That's my purpose. That's the cross to bear. Whatever my mother kept saying to me and all the needlepoint pillows, I'm in. I got that. But then like the second one, I'm like, you and I have known each other 30 some years now. You know that I can't do this. So let's just call it a day. Give me the superpower sign here that I don't have to worry about the second one. No way is this going to happen. And I was really upset. And then I said, my son Michael came bouncing into the room and changed my whole perception of what is the matter with me as his mom. I was missing all the good things about his life and what is he here for? And he's so happy. And what's the matter with me? I was the one that was blind, not him, So then, you would think that everyone thinks that this is going to be this beautiful faith story of all of a sudden I turned around and had this beautiful prayer. Nah,
the angels sing and it's like, oh.
Yeah. And then there's Kristin from Philly. That doesn't happen here. Right. I'm like, okay, fine. Here's how this is going to go. Oh, if this second one is affected, then I'm out. I got nothing. I can't handle it. So you better send me every person, tool, resource. I'll get up in the morning and drive them where they got to go. And then you got to take the wheel from there. And when I tell you, from that moment on, I always say to people that I suddenly was looking with hopeful eyes and a hopeful heart. And when you change to looking at life that way, it's all still the same path, right? All the same stuff is happening, but all of a sudden you're seeing the helpers. You're seeing that there's these systems like early intervention and doctors and therapists and other parents that are out there. you find them because that's what you're looking for. The folks that never have that change in perception and turnaround, that don't look with hopeful eyes and a hopeful heart, they're only seeing sadness, devastation, never get a job, can't do school, Braille's too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know all of them. I know both sides of that road. And for me, you know, I say in the brilliant and resilient stuff, I was broken. I don't want to go through this stuff broken. I want to do it brilliantly with all kinds of incredible results happening, and love and joy and all of that. That's what's in my DNA. Those are my core values. What I have figured out are kindness and gratitude and hope.
Mm-hmm.
That's the true Kristin. So it's against my grain to be in the wrong direction and living in devastation. And I couldn't figure it all out until that miraculous day when Michael said, "Isn't this the best day ever?" And I always say, you know, they're 20 and 16 now, and they are still blind. I have a global organization that is very close to reversing the blindness. But my job that I learned a long time ago is to get options on the table for them as their mom, sight, no sight, whatever. I want it to be so hard for them to choose whether they want sight or not, because they are so well equipped that they can't imagine their life any different. And honestly, in my house right now, I have one interested in sight and one not, because he can't imagine his life any other way.
Being any other way. And the one wound up being valedictorian and all those things that you never even mentioned that you wanted him to become, but he became, even being blind.
Yeah, you know, in my book, Thriving Blind, I interviewed people that are succeeding without sight. And there's one, Kathy Nimmer, was the teacher of the year in Indiana, and in the top 4 in the country, and she's completely blind. And a big quote from her is that she says, all of our kids are going to get to the top of their mountain. The path is just going to look different for all of them than you initially planned. But it's our job to equip them and let them figure that path out. You know, it's like they have to figure it out on their own. And in terms of the whole, you know, what we're facing now in this country, I understand that, you know, I myself am panicking a little bit financially and their education and all this other opportunity. But at the same time, the opportunity that this generation of kids has right now to learn resilience, because we protect them from failure. We protect them from figuring it out on their own. And that's all in love. I mean, we're just trying to help them out.
You don't know that's really going to probably hurt them later on.
Yeah. So now it's like everyone has an opportunity to figure this out together, to be in it together. You know, we also always talk about having a team, a tribe of people going through it together. I got to tell you this real quick. One of my biggest things I've always preached to my kids, and then we talk about in Brilliantly Resilient, is surround yourself with a team, a tribe. I don't know if it's because I've always played sports and you only get the goal if everybody is working together, right? But I always said that. So when Michael was valedictorian that you mentioned, he wouldn't tell, now I am a professional speaker. He would not tell me anything about his speech, wouldn't even tell me the title, because he knows that I love, like I don't like to see, when they were in shows, I didn't want to know anything about the rehearsals. I love to just be wowed live, right?
Right.
So I go in there, I don't know anything about the title. Don't you know, he stands up there and he had his electronic brailer where he's reading the speech, which I always tell him he's a cheater because he's reading it in Braille. He doesn't have to memorize it, right? So he walked up to the podium with every possible accolade around his neck, and he walked confidently with his white cane, and he stood there and he had the Braille, talked all about it's okay to ask for help. Build a team, have people on your team that can do the things you can't. But then I always say that, Michael, my kids all one up me every day of my life, right? So he takes it a further step and he says, but life is not a one-way street. And you need to be out there with your head up looking for who needs you on their team. And you need to go get on their teams. And I thought, this kid was 18 years old when he said that. But that's how Michael goes through his life. And I was saying, you know, on the break that he has this, people just want to be around him. And I swear it's because he lives in deep gratitude all the time. But he also is always looking around to see whose team can he be on? Who can he rise up with him? And I think that's the opportunity we all have right now. As much as everything is hard, there's this unique opportunity for all of us to come up together and bring each other up.
Right. Wow. Wow. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, right.
I know that's kind of a cheesy saying, but that's what I thought when you were saying that. Well, you were saying earlier also about what part faith had in getting you through, and you had some other people kind of speak into your life and all of that. I grew up a PK, a preacher's kid, grew up in the church, know a lot of Bible scriptures, have had personal encounters myself with my Creator, with Christ, and that I'll never deny. I'm not religious, but I'm very relational. And I owe everything to my Creator to this day. I rebelled. I went the opposite way that I should have went. I tried everything, did everything probably 10 times that I shouldn't have done. Mm-hmm. But I always came back to center. I always came back to what doctors call homeostasis, or balance, or back to everything working in line with the other. Given all that, did you bounce back and forth? Did you have faith through this? Did you bounce back and forth? Did you ever tell God you hate him? Why would you do this to me? Like, I want to talk to that person now that, you heard that famous song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. Mm-hmm. But I want to get down to a part of your life that maybe you said, God, how could you do this to me? How I've done this. Why? And then what did you learn on the other side of that?
Yeah. So I was very much, I grew up like you, and I grew up in the Catholic faith, the Catholic Church with my house was just the faith-based house. My parents ran the youth groups. They were very known in our church. And so much so that, and we always had Christmas Eve. We still do at our house. And I'll never forget when I was in high school, I still don't know who it was. A teenager knocked on the door and he needed my dad. He needed to talk to him about something because he said that, I don't know what had crashed in his life. And he knew my dad would be there on Christmas Eve at home. My dad was just very in touch with all the kids through this youth group. And it was beautiful. But I grew up like that, very, very involved in the church, and faith was a big part of our lives. So you can imagine then when all that happened with Michael that first, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I did everything right. I wasn't the one. I was at church every Sunday and I loved it. I had a good time with it and all, right? And my thing is, my first thing was with God was, I just thought it was mean to do this to a kid, like he's got to come into a world where everybody sees and he can't, I just thought it was mean. And what kind of God does that, Mm-hmm. So I was stuck in that for a long time. And honestly, I walked away from all of it. I just walked away from faith, which was hard on my parents, but they are kind, amazing people. And I will say, I did have to say to my mom, who is one of my best friends on the planet, I said to her, I swear to Jesus, if you tell me one more time that God doesn't give you anything you can't handle, I swear to God, something's going to blow up, because I couldn't stand that. I'm like, don't send me any fun. Thank God there was no Pinterest back then, because she would have loaded it with all that kind of stuff, right? It was I'm like, just stop. Doesn't give me anything you can't handle. God has a reason, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to hear it, because I'm like, no God would do this to a person.
Yeah.
So when that morning happened and Michael came in and my whole perception changed, that's when I finally understood fully. And this is what my new speech and program are about, is I fully understood thy will be done. Like, it's not about what I want. He does actually know better than Kristin what's good in this world. And I had to so Easter is a really important time in my life every year, because of that whole, I was raised on the Stations of the Cross and the whole story of the Garden of Gethsemane that I never really, really understood. And when I put it in the context of a mom at her wit's end with hair standing up and sobbing and makeup down my face and unable to get out of bed in the morning, and coming to that point to then have to say, okay, I'm giving this to you. You've got a plan, and I'm going to do whatever you send me, because it's not about me. It's not about my will.
Wow.
And that changed everything. Now I will be crazy honest and say, again, it would be a very good faith movie on the big screen that then the mom is happy and gets in the church choir, right? No, I was still a mess. Yeah. He was still dragging me along.
Work in progress.
Yeah, I didn't find K-Love Radio until 3 years ago. This was a 12-year process.
Tell them about the footsteps in the sand you were telling me.
Oh yeah. So that footsteps, that my dad is huge on that poem, and he would send me that, and I'm like, Dad, I got to tell you, dude, that one set of footprints is not God carrying me. Mine have drag marks. He is dragging me down the beach.
And you're scratching all the way.
I'm like, and then the seagulls are flying away because I'm screaming, you know? It's like a horror movie, my footprints poem of my story.
Yeah. But things didn't
you know,
automatically just switch. There wasn't an on and off switch for the better. And I think that's what a lot of people need to see who have an experience like that, because I feel like you, if it wasn't for grace in my life, you know, I'd probably be dead by now, honestly, because I went through some of the same stuff, been thrown in jail 3 times. I mean, just some hard stuff that we don't have time to get into right now. But that was the very same thing. I would, you know, go out and party one night. My dad's a pastor, and I would wind up in my car the next day in the parking lot at my college crying, you know, and I'm not a crier. Like I'm the business fighter. I don't care about that shit, you know, like, but I would cry to God, and I would say, God, you know, I'm sorry. And I know where your heart is and where my heart is. And, you know, Kristin, like you've heard of failing forward. Like every time I would fall or every time I would fail, it was like God would pick me back up and put me even in a better position the next time. And it made some people mad around me. Like if Henry can do that and act this way, like God would never do that. Like what, you know, what voodoo are you practicing, you know? And they didn't see my heart. They didn't see me in that parking lot by myself. And I don't share this story with a lot of people, but they didn't see me there just crying out to God saying, Father, I don't have all the answers. And, you know, my life isn't perfect. It's far from perfect. It's probably the opposite of perfect, but you still love me enough to pick me up and keep me moving forward. You still love me enough to have your grace and your mercy, not judgment. You know, in the Bible where it says goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. Goodness is something you don't deserve. Mercy is something that you don't deserve, but it's there to follow you and to pick you up and to help you and to carry you through all the days of your life. And you know, sometimes people who tell that to us in love, like your parents did, like you're going, you know, bull crap. I don't need this right now. This wouldn't have happened. That would have happened. That would have happened. But when you come to your senses and you have a moment, you know, and God speaks in different ways. When he spoke through your child who came in and said, Mom, I'm happy. I'm so grateful for where I am and who I am and things that are in my life. When that little angel spoke to you, you know, it changed your life forever. You still had junk going on. You still had, to this day, through everything that I've been through the grace of God that has shown out in my life so many times I can't even count them. I still have problems. I still have trouble. But the difference is I know I can get through it now. Yes. I know I have that hand that will help me. And sometimes he'll carry me and sometimes he has to drag me. But I know it's there. It's not that I'm never going to have a problem. It's I know I can get through them now. And I think more than anything right now, and I want you to speak to this a little bit, but I think our faith in God right now, let me put it this way, and I say this very respectfully, but people who don't have faith in their Creator right now have nothing. Like they have nothing to pull them through. They have no hope for tomorrow. They have nothing going on. And I feel in a very respectful way, not in a judgmental way, because I was the guy out doing all the bad stuff, but in a very like loving way. Like I feel so sorry for that type of person, because where would I be without the mercy and the grace of an unconditionally loving God, a God that loves you unconditionally? You know, maybe we start there. If you really believe God is an unconditional love to you, that means love without conditions. You can't earn it. You can't do anything so good to make God love you better, or anything so bad that makes him love you worse. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he loves you unconditionally. That means without condition. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So I think along that lines, that's where, when you talk about people that don't have that belief and those of us that do, is where fear takes over. And look what happens in the world when you are operating from a place of fear. Then you're lashing out on other people. Then you're one of the ones that's creating the problems as opposed to fixing the problems. And one thing I will say is I'm watching what's happening in the world now, and it can get, you know, you watch too long and you start to lose the hope and you lose all of that. But when you really look and see how many people are coming together. That's what's showing me there are so many more people operating in faith.
Yes.
And knowing that there is an unconditional love for them, because otherwise it would be a completely, all the fear would win. I was talking to somebody the other day about the ooze that would be like he was talking about in Ghostbusters 2 when the ooze took over New York, right? That's what we would be consumed with, is that ooze.
An ugly ooze.
Yeah. As opposed to all of the, companies that are just saying, I don't care what was right or wrong or who was prepared or not. We're jumping in now, and we're jumping in, and communities that are jumping in. And I mean, we've got families whose people my age, we've had 3 of their fathers in my neighborhood. The grandfathers have died in the past 2 weeks. And the way the community is coming around to rally for those families. I mean, everything, there's so much happening that's rooted in love, that faith in an unconditional God is behind so much of that I do worry about the folks that are not in that same place, because if there's too much of that, that's when all the fear, anger, rage, taking things out on each other, that's where all of that starts to take over. But I just said it to my kids the other day. I'm like, watch, there is so much love that is surrounding this.
Wow. No, I agree with you 1,000%. So those of you who are watching, lean into that love. Know that you have a creator, a heavenly Father that loves you so much that, when I was a little boy going to Sunday school class, we always used to sing that song. He's got the whole world in his hand. And he does. He's got the world in his hands. He's got you in his hands. He's got this virus in his hands. He's got everything in his hands. And in an uncontrollable, chaotic world, he does have control. Your creator does have control. And all of that is based in an unconditional love, full of grace and mercy, things that we don't deserve, but are there for the leaning into. And Kristin, you have lifted my spirits today. We did part 1, part 2, and you'll never know what a blessing you've been to me and my life personally already. And I know there's going to be thousands, if not millions, of people touched by this.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate the time to talk about this today, because this is a topic that we should talk more about.
Yeah, no, I agree. Tell people how they can get more of you, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, so you can find me at brilliantlyresilient.net. You can also find me at kristinsmedley.com. I'm Kristin with an I-N. Look up my TED Talk. If you go on YouTube and search Kristin Smedley TEDx Talk, I go into my moment of surrender in that TED Talk also.
That's right. I pulled that up, and I'm going to watch the rest of it today. Matter of fact,
I had a really bad hair day that day, so don't judge the hair in the video. 3 kids in a little tiny apartment, in a little tiny hotel room in New York City, and my middle child turned on the shower, and I have naturally curly hair. So.
Oh no! Oh my gosh! So you were a
poodle
on
the TED stage, and Mitchell. I'm always like Mitchell.
That's funny. So you've just learned something on the Business Fighter podcast that nobody else knows. So go watch her TED Talk. Go to her website. If you want more of what I have to say, it's henrypenix.com. You'll see me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Look at all the social media. Do all that stuff, but don't forget to love your family. Don't forget to reach out to those who are less fortunate. Give somebody a call, do a FaceTime with somebody, tell them you love them. Practice that unconditional love, the unconditional love of God, and watch out, it comes back to you 10 times full. Kristin, thank you so much. We may even have a part 3 one of these days.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But thank you for part 1 and part 2. It's been a tremendous blessing.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for the great work you do.
Okay, see you later.
See ya.